We have a wonderful guest poet for you here tonight, Mr. Jared Nadin, who, sorry. Don't worry, Jared, I have a little bit more to say before I kick off. I think many of you will probably know Jared, who's been quite a stalwart of the Limerick poetry community for many, many years with stanzas, and I think someone who has worked to kind of support and help platform a lot of new voices in Limerick for, God, when did stanzas? It's probably in the bio, I'll just read it. Many years ago. It was in the bio. So, Jared Nadin is a musician, actor and poet based in Limerick City. He is co-founder of Stanzas, a Limerick literary collective established in 2014. God, I feel old. More recently, he's been a host of the monthly Prose, Pints and Poetry event in the Wickham, which kind of started up the same time as we started back here in the Whitehouse. And it is just so excited from Limerick to go from no real poetry nights for a while to two, pretty much at the same time, which is phenomenal. His work has been published in the Stanzas Paperweight series, which we have for sale over this beautiful table over here, for the very low price of just €2. What a Christmas gift that is. You can also get a free copy of Revival if you buy a paperweight. It will be ridiculous not to. You'll be losing money. He's also been published in the Ovale 5-word anthology, Silver Apples magazine, and Brilliant Flash Fiction magazine. In 2021, Jared returned to college to the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance at UL, where he is currently studying a BA in World Music. And I suppose before we put Jared on, one of my main first memories of Jared, I haven't told you this yet,
I'm excited,
is in 2015, I was very lucky to win my first poetry competition. It was down in Cork. I was very, very happy with myself. Drove back up the next day to Limerick and was walking through the city of Limerick, and all of a sudden a busker on the other side of the road shouted into the microphone that he was playing on, "Congratulations!" So, for someone who has quite literally for the last 8 years been promoting poetry very much on the streets of Limerick City, to be exact, I am very, very happy, very, very honoured, and I hope you will all help me in welcoming Jared Nadin.
Hello everyone. Oh, hello, interesting. Oh, I have, yeah, super. Thanks very much, and thank you so much, Lan, for having me here tonight. I haven't read in the White House in many a year, but I'm delighted to be back here again, and thanks everyone for coming out. So, yes, as Lauren says, you can buy my little chapbook. It's called Bookmarks. It's part of the Stanzas Paperweight series, which is an old series we did where we challenged poets to see what you could do with one sheet of paper. And I decided to fold mine up and turn it into a bookmark. But there's a few little poems inside. So I'll read you a couple of those now. This one, funnily enough, is about a bar, but not this bar. It's called Problem Shared. The carpet here is memory foam, footprint craters. I look for yours and find them in the corner of a glass eye. Blue and gold, Dutch lakes. Beyond those doors is memory's home, retrospective. I look for you and find you in the corner of a glass eye, left alone, too late. Could you let down your walls? Let someone in to look out upon the world. Could you take off your mask? Hang it on the wall to collect dust. Cheers. And then if you fold it over, you get another one. This one's called Daedalus is Dead. I never wrote a poem for you, nor any other boy or man, but you I sweet serenaded, the only hopelessly romantically redundant thing I've done worthwhile. Never wrote your name in the paper of a poem, whispered I love you and kissed your neck, Calvin Klein, but I never stole a memory of your face, a memory of the image of your chip-toothed dimpled face. I remember our first kiss by the statues, but not the tug of knuckle on skin. And the pages of memory are blank of all our love. For I never wrote a poem for you, nor any other boy or man. But you I sweet serenaded, the only hopelessly romantically redundant thing I've done worthwhile. Oh, cheers. And now to read a newer poem. And usually I try to mostly write about myself and experiential things, but sometimes there's things in the world that are just a bit too big and you can't let them pass without having your say. So this is based on something a friend of mine said to me recently about the conflict in the Middle East, and he said, I cry every night now. So this is a typical Wednesday morning for Ciaran. I cry every night now. There's dust on their skin, in their eyes, in their hair, but no wounds or blood add colour to the grey. Organs crushed by pressure waves from bunker busters dropped on flats. I cry every night now for them, too young to flee from out the ever-shrinking west. They wait in fear, for homes and schools and hospital gates are not exempt from the shelling. I cry every night now, because every 10 minutes a child in Gaza goes to be with God. Collateral damage, say the generals, and on the news the anchor shouts, destroy, destroy, destroy. I cry every night now for them, and wake again to another normal, not normal morning, to the sound of no one else's tears. Right, and I think we'll swiftly move to something a little more pleasing to think about. This just describes a lovely long weekend spent with a lovely person. It's called 1,000 Hours. How can 1,000 hours in which was spent such merry bliss be gone from us as soon as they arrived? 1,000 hours in one. As one did feel each metered tick from out the clock of age's aging face. And in 1,000 hours the bleak and anxious thoughts abate beneath the blanket's warm and safe embrace. 1,000 hours in one. In one stitched moment without seams that stretched beyond the dark of yesterday. Thanks. And now for something a bit naughty, seeing as it's Christmas. Now, I did see that there was a vague Christmas theme to the event this evening, and I sadly have no festive poetry, but this poem was published in a festive magazine themed on the naughty list. So this is my personal ode to the wonder of smoking cigarettes. So it fits very well on the naughty list, I think. It's called Nicotine Buzz. It's Monday, yet again, and the waking world reaches with clawing hand inside my head, hooks its talons to my skin, and rips me to reality. I'm shaken awake by the morning demons, and the birds sing a totentanz from their perch in the trees. The death march of a modern Monday, a #1 hit in the charts of nature. Reluctantly, I unfold from sleep and uncrumple from my bed, quickly shower, trim my beard, and trudge to the kitchen below. There is a vice I need, a hit, a fix, a buzz of nicotine. The ritual begins again. Open tin, take filter tip, place tip between dry lips, peel paper from packet and place tip on left. Pinch, pull, and take the leaves. The fabled smooth golden leaves pulled apart and ready for spreading. The paper, is a crisp white valley, the tip a dam to stem the flow, and I, as God, bring autumn to that valley, as brown leaves fall and float along the wind till they rest upon the valley floor, still. With both hands, I take up the paper and roll it, the ritual finished with lick and stick. And I, as God, say, let there be light. With cigarette between dry lips and hell fire in hand, I light the end to burn the beginning and suck sweet smoke from the burning bush. My begging lungs accept the gift. Lightning sparks beneath my skin, my hands tinkle, my head floats, and as I stub the butt in the cigarette cemetery, I smile pure bliss and calm relief. I've had my hit, my fix, my sweet, sweet nicotine buzz. You have to have a bit of fun sometimes, don't you? Yeah. Oh, where's that gone? Oh no. Sometimes the internet fails you and you have to improvise and quickly search and make for a chat. So several years ago, before the pandemic arrived, I worked in Kinvara in South Galway. I was performing in banquets in a tiny little castle called Dungura. And while I was there, I had to stay in a B&B, and I was always on my own, so I would just walk along the rocks a lot and think about the times between when that castle was built 500 years ago and now, and the people that you might meet along the way. So this is Cush Thrall. The hastening days are filling with the anxious swell of activity, as by the sea, among the wrack, feet bursting bladders, he ambles with the ghosts of fishermen. Here in the bay, there is no sound of waves to crash across the whispers of the anglers, telling tales of times the island was the home of twice again the living souls. Thanks. Just a short one. I'll do two more little short ones for you now. The first I did in response to an artwork several years ago. The artwork I was given was these pink quilted blankets, and they had these sort of stitched diamonds across them. And all I could think of was the inside of someone's lungs for some reason. So I wrote a poem about that, and it's called Stitch and Sinew. I want to look inside you, past the curtains of hair, past the sheets of skin and the streets of blood. I want to look inside you, to scratch away the layers, to unravel all the stitches, to crack open the bones. I want to see the gears turn, dance in your beating heart, dream in your cloudy head, breathe in your quilted lungs. Lungs, head, heart, bones, hair, blood, skin. Layers over layers, layered on layers. Cheers. So, yes, I'll do one more short one and then one more long one, and I'll leave you with the long one. So the short one is a musing on time, and it's my idea of a nonsense poem, I suppose. If physicists wrote nonsense poems, this one would come out. Time. Beginning from the end and back to where we first began, the weeks in days and hours in minutes fall back inside the inside out. Time is fleeting. Sleet and wind in the hourglass of all that is. Rewind the clock. Rewind the clock so it may tick beyond the hour. Tempus est tempestus et tempus est tempestus. Time is storm, and time is weather. Whether we weather the storm of time or not. Thank you. Oh, pardon me. Yes, and so it's been lovely being here, sharing some poems from across the years with you. In my spare time, I am the MC over at Prose, Pints and Poetry, which we host on the last Wednesday of each month down in the Whitcomb Bar. except this month, because we're going to be on the 20th, because we don't want to get in the way of Christmas. But other than that, you can look us up on Instagram, Prose, Pints and Poetry. Yeah, and do pop into us in the Wickham some last Wednesday, and we'll get some people here the week after, and we'll have a grand old time. But yes, I've spent the last number of years studying in the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance, so music has been a bit more of my life than poetry recently, so I thought I might recite you a little song. I won't sing it for you, but I will recite it for you. And that'll close me out. And if you'd like to buy my chapbook, it's only £2. Icarus wings. The sun bursts through the clouds again and pierces through my eyes. I see you going out again, but I fly through different skies. I want to fly among them, but I'm locked behind these bars. I knew the chance was mine to take, but I'm banished to the stars. So catch these broken pieces of my Icarus wings. My skin is burned to ashes, and my lungs no longer sing. And the tears fall slowly from my envious eyes. My tattered, burned, and worn-out feathers keep me from returning to the sky as I watch you fly away with him. My lungs hurt from screaming out your name, and my voice can take no more. You're right here, a foolish lover's game, but I sail beyond those shores. I need to feel the wind again to embrace this dying spark. I knew the chance was mine to take, but I'm banished to the dark. So catch these broken pieces of my Icarus wings. My skin is burned to ashes, and my soul no longer sings. And the tears fall slowly from my envious eyes. My tattered, burned, and worn-out feathers keep me from returning to the sky as I watch you fly away with him. Flying through these burning flames, dying just to hear your name. Sweep the ashes from my feet, speak my name with voice so sweet, and I'm cutting my fingers on the stones in your skin, plucking at the strings of your heart. I knew the chance was mine to take, but I'm banished to the dark. So catch these broken pieces of my Icarus wings. My skin is burned to ashes, and my soul no longer sings. And the tears fall slowly from my envious eyes. The tattered, burned, and worn-out feathers keep me from returning to the sky as I watch you fly away with him. Thanks very much.
Let's give it up one more time for Jared. Thank you so much, Jared. That was wonderful. We are going to take maybe 5-10 minute break. Everyone go get a drink, so the Whitehouse will let us come back next month. And €2. Like, what can you buy these days for €2? Chocolate bar? Barely? Just about. Just about. Like, someday soon, Freddo's will be €2, and it'll be a very sad day. Very sad day. Poetry, €2. Couldn't ask for any better value than that, and you get a free book with it. So please go support our wonderful artist of the night. We also have a lovely poster, as we are making tradition. If everyone would like to sign the poster, if you have any comments you'd like to give for Jared, so you can take it away with him for the night. And it's just a lovely keepsake for our artists every month. So I'll see you all in 10 minutes-ish.
So, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the poster for comments for Jared and thank yous is circling around the room at the moment. So do make sure to sign it because it's a lovely keepsake. And yeah, so no more from hosts. If I could ask Mick Lacey to take the mic and give us a poem or two.
Thank you. I just mentioned when I came in that in one of, I have a line where Shane McGowan is mentioned, and I'd just like to. I can sing so I play and sing, but I don't have my instrument with me. But some of his wonderful songs, "Rainy Night in Soho," "Pair of Brown Eyes," "Summer in Siam." The songs, it's only 2 lines. When it's summer in Siam and the moon is full of rainbows. When it's summer in Siam, we go through many changes. When it's summer in Siam, it's then I know who I really am. When it's summer in Siam, when it's summer, it's a beautiful song. And then he had Fairy Tale of New York. It was very sad to hear his demise. I'm sure people were. Also the way he died, as did. I concerned that people romanticised the way he died, the way Brendan Behan died, Patrick Kavanagh died, and if you read the last Brendan Behan in New York, and his demise was pretty horrific. I knew Patrick Kavanagh, and in the pub we used to drink, he was barred from the toilet because spells were gone, and everywhere he went there was handfuls of white powder, which wasn't cocaine, was bed soda, which is esophagus. But when he was dying in hospital, he was in dreadful pain, and the doctor said to him, "How can you manage the pain so well?" And he says, "I'm a poet, I'm spiritual." And that's what kept him going. And I heard it on a programme where they're introducing literary writing and poetry to the College of Medicine and teaching it to doctors to communicate at that level. Also, we remember our own Terry Murray. And I knew Terry Murray years ago, suffered dreadfully, how that woman, physically, emotionally and mentally, but maintain a high level of sanity. And what kept her alive was her poetry. Having said that, I was a social worker in Dublin in the 80s when Fairy Tale of New York came out, and we made this song up and the worst thing could happen to you on Friday at the time someone would come in, "I'm fed up with these kids and ask you to take them into care." So we made this song up. It was Friday evening in the social workers corridor. This one said to me, "Here, take these 4. The Alpha's on the drink. Left me in the pink. I'm nearly over the brink, and I can't cope with them." So he stood and held her hand, dripping with sincerity, but you can't feed hungry kids with help or empathy. So away with your Dr. John. Your cuts have the services gone, you have me head gone wrong, and I can't cope with them. And the girls from the Astra Choir, they were singing Molly Malone, and the kids were crying out for methadone. And the boys from Ballyfermot, they were born in Galway Bay, and the bells were ringing out for Paddy's Day. Thank you. Now my poem, if anyone remembers RTE 1962, I don't know if people remember when it started, by Dahi Locker and Gussie Goose. People might remember that. And I was at the time I went to psychoanalysis in the 70s, and by a man who was psychoanalyzed by Sigmund Freud. That's why I'm so well today. And I also attempted to write a Eurovision song. So this poem I'm writing is about going to psychoanalysis and my Eurovision song, which keeps changing every day. I'm still writing it. Haven't finished it. I started it in the 70s. And it's unrequited love, not about Sheila, but it is in a way. The girl I dyed my hair for. Don't tell her. I jumped into my time machine to seek an audience with the Queen, to see if she would love me true or fit my Cinderella shoe. Goldilocks and Mother Goose, won't you please let me loose? I can't get in, I can't get out. Listen to the policeman shout. Salvador Dali, Picasso and Van Gogh, Miro, Munch and Gaudi, my brain has had enough. Barcelona's dancing, Paris is romancing, London Bridge is falling down, and Limerick town is spinning round. Ludine MacLuhan, his magic flute, Dahi Locker, Gussie Goose, the knave of heart, the joker's fool, Shane McGowan and Finn McCool. Dostoevsky's Raskolnikov, alcohol and Korsakov, Beckett, Steiner and Camus, Aeschylus and James Joyce too. Aristophanes, frogs and clouds, Brendan Behan's too early shroud, Patrick Kavanagh, Flann O'Brien, the third policeman Spike, the Selby's crying. The King of Hearts, the Jack of Spades, the Joker's gone, the Queen's got laid. Dancing, jumping, magic tricks, the fox and queen on Shunnock Glick. Oisin Niamh and Tiernan Og, hugging, kissing, one last poke. He didn't go by Niamh, was told, suddenly grew 3 centuries old. Then St. Patrick, he rang a spell to save Oisin from going to hell. To hell Oisin wanted to go, with Finn, August and Fina down below. Salvador Dali, Picasso and Van Gogh, Miro, Monk and Gaudi, my brain has had enough. Barcelona's dancing, Paris is romancing, London Bridge is falling down, and Limerick town is spinning round. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Cora, you're on. Give it up for Cora.
I just wrote a short Christmas story this time rather than a poem. I hope that's okay. I'll keep it brief. It was Christmas morning and the earth was just waking. Early morning frost glistened like a coral of pearls around the now wintered cherry blossom at the bottom of the garden, and the evergreens were feathered with soft snow that never came to lie. I padded down the stairs in stocking feet and through to my mother's kitchen. The aromatic fragrance of cinnamon and spices filled the air. On the stove, clove and orange slices infused in a tureen of sweet mulled wine to warm the callers after Christmas Mass. The turkey on the table was wrapped in buttered muslin, ready to be stuffed with paxo, sage and onion, and the marrowfat peas were steeping in a Pyrex bowl. In the sitting room, heavy jacquard curtains blocked out any light, so I flicked the Christmas lights to life, illuminating all the presents underneath the tree. Santa had been. A red and yellow garage with petrol pumps and cars for Eamon. A medieval fort with a drawbridge and mounted knights in armour for Pat, and a Crawley doll for me. While I marvelled at the toys, I saw a figure moving in the half-light, and I froze. Could this magic moment really be mine? Delirious with delight, I rang and flung myself at him, screaming, "Santa, Santa!" only to find that it was my dad placing the last of the presents and the Christmas annuals underneath the tree. My shock turned to histrionics and I screamed and bawled. I was inconsolable. My dad picked me up in his arms and we sat in his big leather armchair, me sobbing into his chest that Santa wasn't real. "No," my dad said gently, "Santa is very real, but not like the man in the big red suit. We just use him as a concept to teach kindness to the little ones who wouldn't understand in words. Yes, I left all those presents every year, but not for gain or glory. I did it because of the immense joy I knew it would bring to you. But I let Santa take the credit because I wanted to teach you what the true spirit of Christmas is, and that is to give with kindness and generosity without expecting thanks or anything in return." Just then the Christmas bells rang out and everything seemed softer and more beautiful. "Will we open the Christmas biscuits?" my dad said roguishly, and he took the tin of Jacob's afternoon tea down off the sideboard. I chose the chocolate one with the sugared pink jelly star. Then we sank back into the big armchair laughing and eating biscuits. And for one small girl, all the love in the world lived there in that room. This is to be my father's final Christmas. Now when I look back on Christmas past, when all the ones I loved were still alive, I'm back there in that room with paper decorations, and last night's embers from the fire still warm and glowing in the grate, and a noble Christmas fir with branches bowed beneath a heft of baubles, bells and twinkling lights, crowned with the Star of Bethlehem. I'm in my father's armchair, and I still can hear his voice and feel his heartbeat. This is not the year I stopped believing in Santa. This was the year I started to believe in all that he embodied, and that the simple act of giving with kindness in your heart and generosity of spirit is purely the true meaning of Christmas. Now,
Thank you, Cora. Marie Studer.
thank you.
Okay, so this short poem is set in my childhood Christmas. I was about 6 or 7. And I was in bed supposedly asleep when I crept down the stairs. So disbelief. Crouching on stairs, I see her head bent over the singer. guiding a remnant of red and white cotton beside a box of buttons and threads. Tinsel chains crisscrossed the ceiling, scattering sparks on formica, where next morning brothers in fringed cowboy suits point barrels at a doll resplendent in Christmas gingham. So this poem is set, I spent Christmas in North Dakota, so picture Fargo, the snow and the cold. And so our flight home was delayed by a couple of days. Chicago was closed. So we got to spend extra time with family, and for the first time I saw sundogs in the sky. So it's called Bonus Days. Cut off by a prairie blizzard, we shrugged the best laid plans, glad of more days to nestle with grandchildren in the glow of sundogs, saucers spinning violet, red vinyl lights, stalactites clasping crystals of iced water. Our daughter nursed her infant son, eyes glazed for strolls in Clare's fuchsia red lanes, children clutching buckets and spades, running towards tides of encroaching waves. That's just one final one there. So this poem is called Advent. On the table, 3 for 2 deals, socks, books, eau de toilette, making a list, checking it twice as the kettle builds up steam. I hug a mug of dark coffee, aromatic as old speckled leather. A thrush rolls a red berry in its beak, picks the weeping cotoneaster for more. Sky of steel splashed with red satin, a gloaming of amber pink radiance, soft as Christmas Eve candlelight. All bears the old winter ache, waves like whispering birch streels. I light the first Advent candle of 4. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie, and thanks a million, Nick.
You're all right?
Evelyn. And while she makes her way over, we have Michael O'Mahony with us tonight, and there's a group that is coming together at the moment to do writing and give each other feedback and generally encourage each other. So if you're interested, do come talk to Michael for more details later.
Thank you. One second now. I have a fur coat on me, as you can see. It's very old. It was given to me when I was a little girl, which I didn't wear then. And oh, I'm sorry. I didn't expect to be called so fast, even though they're not so far away. Okay. I want to read you a poem called My Mother's Fur Coat. My mother's fur coat. She wore it with grace, like a film star, like Kelly. We cuddled the sleeves at Sunday Mass. Then, after she passed away, it sadly hung in her wardrobe. We never dared to touch its familiarity or snuggle to feel her warmth. Dad hesitantly gave it to me years later to warm my eternal cold hands. Put some colour on your cheeks, he said. It looked at me, reminding me of her. My children, though quite young, frowned at the animal brutality. This justified my reason for hiding it in a sanctuary of mothballs. 20 years later, the papers forecast an unprecedented cold winter. I slipped into my mother's unwrapped arms, and soft memories brushed my cheeks. I drifted back to endless sermons, felt her closeness. My sister, when she saw the coat, remembered being warmed by the sleeves at Sunday Mass. My daughter, now with girls of her own, when your granddaughters snuggle in the warmth. Yours to keep when I'm gone, I say. Remember the sleeves of your mother's past and protected childhood moments in my mother's fur coat. And one more, since we're hanging on with Mother. This is called Mother. My mother, of course. She baked soda bread, wrapped it in a damp tea towel, and let it cool on the kitchen window on Wednesdays. And on Sunday it was fruitcake, and the one with cinnamon, the one my sister tries to copy. When she knit, she used both hands to hold the wool and needles, but only her index fingers moved with precision. Patiently now, row for row, going until back or front or sleeve appeared. On Thursday, she took the double-decker bus to buy the weekly shopping and a treat of sugared donuts or salt and vinegar chips. She sang a lot of oldies and we sang along. She told a good ghost story at Halloween. She shared old black and white photos. On each one had its own intriguing tale. When the summer days were sticky, she prepared a picnic blanket and a basket to rest between the dips in the ocean and relax. In winter, she toasted peanuts on the open fire as we combed her thick curls. Christmas time was best. We licked the big whisk, and then the bowl. Then we cleaned the bowl with the wooden spoon, and then we licked the spoon, and then we licked our fingers. Each of us had our favourite decoration for the tree. Times have changed since he passed. Picnics are no more. We check photos on social media. Toasted peanuts are quicker from the supermarket. But nothing can replace her bread cooling on the kitchen window.
Thanks. So, John Pinchmit, you're on. And after John, I have Martin Murphy.
Very good. Good evening.
Hello, John.
The piece I'm reading tonight was the title of my first poetry collection, which came out in 2014. And this is to our Titanic lady, signed Carl Sauer, 23 December 1911. Maiden voyage. Well wrapped against bitter Berlin breezes, you set out for the studio of the young artist, his age same as the day, and on parchment, in charcoal, with chalk highlights, he etched your life-size head and shoulders portrait, surely a present given to another young man the next night to remember you by. Such a stylish age to come of age, and how your profile must have pleased the great sweeping feathered hat as wide as your fur-warm shoulders, the confident clear gaze just touched with light on eye, nose, lips, and chin, looking west, 4 months from the maiden voyage that would leave Queenstown April 11, sailing into history. We've always imagined your beauty on that great ship, not as in the film, cresting the bow, arms spread into the wind, where the young Irish artist met on board, though the music is perfect. A century later, on stone in the back hall, your image, under glass, night and day reflects us as we come and go, your rich dark hair never graying like ours, your soft left shoulder and never turning, your eyes ever west, your ever warm life suspended on floating white, frozen in time. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Martin.
The riff-raff's in now. Okay. An ode to April 74. Back home from school, and I'd had my tea. Little did I know what was in store for me. Get your coat, said my dad, you're coming with us. So I buttoned my duffel, and we left with no fuss. At the 2:20 bus stop, it was dark and quite cold. On that April evening, when I was just 8 years old. A young boy so curious of where he was being taken. A place of worship, I was not mistaken. We got to White City, just that name conjures magic, and hopped on the bus, and hopped off the bus. It all seemed so dramatic. On South Africa Road, the lights glowed in the sky, and I realised where I was, then heard the loft cry, "We are Queen's Park Rangers!" Don, Jerry and Stan, the pride of West London. Now I was their newest fan. When City were rubbish, and we beat them by 3, even Lawbell and Franny could not convert me. So 50 years later, with those days long gone, another relegation looms, heading to Division 1. But my blue and white hoops still bring me a smile. But for the taste of success, I'll be waiting a while. Thank you. And just a quick one I actually scribbled today, so it's a bit raw. It's an unwanted disguise. Don't call me English. I could be offended, because you just don't know me. Okay, I was born there, and I love tea with a scone and cream, and I might mention 66 sometimes, but don't call me English. I am Irish and proud. Don't call me English. Why would you think that? It irritates me so much. Okay, I played cricket in my full whites and had some more tea, and I know far too much about the monarchy, but don't call me English. I'm a Cork man through and through. So don't call me English. It should now be apparent. Just don't mind my accent. My blood, it flows green. One favour I ask though, it's a small one at that. Don't speak to me or Skelga. I'm not that Irish quite yet.
Thanks, Martin. Maybe next week, a poem John Carew. John was one of the first storytellers I heard when I came here to Limerick, and I'm happy to hear you again 4 years later.
How are you all?
Right.
That's good, that's good. First thing I must do tonight is look for the sympathy vote from you by telling you that I didn't get much out of school. Actually, just one more than that. In fact, the only thing I got out of school was myself. That was as quick as possible. But I did have a teacher one time, and when she'd be into the poetry. Oh Jesus, Mrs. she could quote all the greats. Shakespeare, Wordsworth, Yeats, Frost, Carew.
All right.
I think we have 5 of them. But she came into school one day and she said, "Now class, what I want you to do today is to tell me what you'd like to be or what you'd like to do when you grow up." But I wanted in poetry form. So the first little young fella up at the front of the class jumped up and goes, "My name is Dan. When I grow up, I'm going to travel the world over to China and Japan." "Oh, very good Dan, very good. That's exactly what I want." And then the little young one halfway back to class stands up and goes, "My name is Sadie Dady. When I grow up, I'm going to be a lady and have a baby." Oh, very good, Sadie, very good. And then the teacher did something that she never did before. She looked back to the back of the class and pointing at me and says, what about something from back there? And there I was, standing with my mouth open and one hand under the other. And sure, I had to say something. And the only thing I could think of was, my name is also then Fick, China and Japan. But if Sadie Daddy wants a baby, I'm your man. The last night I was here, I was asked to do the bull McHale.
Oh, yeah.
But I couldn't do the bull, I hadn't my gear with me. But you're not going to escape tonight. It is said that Irishmen pray to three gods, the Father, the Son and the Holy Ghost, but that he's only one true God, and that's the field of the land. And John B. Keane, one of Ireland's greatest playwrights, in my humble opinion anyway, captured this perfectly with his character, the Bull McCabe, who would have stopped at nothing, including murder, to have the field that he felt was rightfully his. And a few years back I was lucky enough to be in the Honeyfitz Theatre in Loughor for a wonderful production of the field. And a local man and neighbour of mine, Seamus Dooley, played the bull. And a wonderful job he made of it. And this is a piece that I wrote for him after seeing him perform it. But of course, anyone here that has been involved in amateur dramatics will know that to play a part, you have to become that part, especially if you want to do a John B. Keane's part. So if you just bear with me for a moment while I become the bull. Okay? Would you want this? Back it away.
I enjoy it.
Is that the same original step? It looks.
You can look at me now with disgust, as I suffer for my sins here in the flames of hell. And why would I not suffer? For poor men must sin to have what is rightfully theirs. Poor men will welt their hands and cripple their backs of the land. And there are those that would come and take what was mine, the field that I nurtured with the manure of 7 heifers. And ye say I have no rights? God, I tell you this, no man will take what is rightfully mine. These flames of hell are hard to bear, but bear my mush, for what is a man if he doesn't stand for what is his? I'm not alone here in this abyss. There's the widow butler, still dressed in black, and she a whore that would take the money of a black stranger and leave me without my field. Mick Flanagan, the conniving bastard, honest auctioneer does no such thing. Didn't he take blood money to keep his mouth shut? His wife Mamie here too. Her husband wasn't the only man she lay with. Yes, Father Murphy, that righteous man, he too must God here for his sins of the flesh. The bishop too, another virtuous man, would dare to preach of greed and wrongdoing, and he that would take the innocence of an altar by. Poor Willie Dale must suffer hell. His greed condemned the bull to this torment. His wife here too, for no man should have to suffer the torment of a woman's crazed mind. The Lord sits on his bar stool, his lips cracked and parched, his tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth, and ne'er a drink to quench his thirst, a thirst unknown to any living man. Aye, they're all here now, and at their pleasure must suffer for their wrongdoing. At least I stood for what was rightfully mine. And to bait your wife, what sin is that, I ask you? And she that would live at Tinkle's one-eyed pony grazed the grass of 14 cows out from under their feet. And hide me by, why didn't I show you a different way? Would you understood the importance of the land? And Ty, I'm glad your mother's not down here with us. She's with the man above. She had her share of suffering done in that. To have married a man like me, that would murder a tinker's ass, and to spawn a son that would kill a man. I Ty, that's to men to know, or any woman to bear. So all of ye that would look at me and condemn me for what I've done, look into your hearts and ask, would you too take the field from the boom with him?
There was a question from the wings about whether your staff is the original one or whether they take turns. Say yes.
That's a bottle of the reactor given to me by Gorodiel himself, who lives beneath the enchanted waters of the lake. And some night I'll tell you the story of how he got it.
Sounds like a promise for the new year. The next poet is someone that I look forward to their readings every time. It's no other than Lauren McNamara. Give her a round of applause.
First of all, are you okay, Marie? That's good. I had notions of doing a very silly poem tonight, but my one coke that I had is kind of worn off, so I might go a little bit more somber. So I suppose this time of the year it's often very happy, but also kind of remembering the past as well. So this is a piece dedicated to my grandmother, Pauline O'Kelly. Visiting Granny in the visiting room with the armchairs and the broken grand piano that still plays beautifully when you know which keys to use. Granny smiles, her eyes as young as ever, and she just keeps singing these old Irish songs. And she tries to get you to sing along even though you don't know the words, but you just pretend, because she's lost her hearing aids again, and well, she can't tell if you don't. But she's happy and carefree, and she just has fun, and she lives now in her own world, and that's a place of music and splendour, and she says the staff in the nursing home take care of her, and she's come to realise that she probably won't go home, but she's okay with that. And she asks how her husband is, and you say he's fine. You bring her a magazine, and she loves this, because her eyesight is better than yours, and she sees everything. She sees you and tells you, you got so tall and also a little fat. She tells those around you that you're a good scholar in school and you'll become a teacher soon, and she gets presents on her first day and her birthday and on Mother's Day, but she tries to give them away because she doesn't want to have too many things, and she asks how her husband is and you say he's fine. You bring in your girlfriend to meet her. She smiles and says she's pretty and asks when you're getting married, and I say, not for a while, but when I turn she confides in it that she thinks we'll both make beautiful brides, and to be fair, I am her oldest grandchild, and well, Granny's 93 and she just wants to party. And she tells you it was a difficult day seeing that man in a bed like that, and it was hard to see Grandad in hospital, and you agree and say, I'm so sorry. And then you just shake your head because she hates to wear her hearing aids. And then she asks how her parents are. And you know to tell her they're fine, because the first time you didn't lie, you told her they passed away, and she asks, when? And you said, a long time ago. And she looks at you and asks, why didn't anyone tell me? I didn't even get to say goodbye. And then she asks what happened to her family home, which she hasn't been to in over 40 years, and you say you don't know, and then you just shake your head because she can't hear you. And then she sings these old Irish songs. And she tells you, you gotta go now, because it's lunchtime and you're in the way. And she laughs and smiles, and you too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. Aoife. Give Aoife a round of applause.
Right, well, I wrote this poem at about 5 o'clock this evening, and I'm almost certain, thank you. I'm almost certain it's the only poem I've ever properly written. I've never really finished one. It doesn't have a name, but it's about my nan. You sit by the door as my family and I enter the house, in your armchair, leather worn out, after all the years it has seen. Your hearing weaker, your body feeble, your voice, its wobbly nature, constantly reflecting the enlightenment that only a Tipperary woman in her 87th year could have. As you tell us stories about some Slattery, some Ryan or some O'Dwyer, the many people with which you have shared a mutual love and appreciation for. You sit by the door as my dad hands you your favourite dinner, a cheeseburger from the Supermax drive-thru, microwaved to perfection. It's a small thing, but it's important for us to care for you as you cared for us for decades. Decades of saving €10 notes to give to your many grandchildren. Decades of being given tins of biscuits only to give them to your daughters and sons. Sure, I'll never eat all that, you say. You sit by the door every day, nearing your last. Your legs now struggle to hold you up as you slowly walk to your bedroom. You lie in your bed and thank God for your healthy brain. For you realise your body is not what it was, but your mind is filled with memories. Memories that fill our family with joy and warmth. Memories that will line the fresh grass blanket you will soon share with your husband. And when that day comes, we will sit by the door and breathe in your vitality, becoming a symbol of your love for life. Thank you.
Brilliant, Aoife. Thank you. Joe Healy, would you like to read? I know you're here.
So I'm going to lower the tone here because I'm going to read a poem about hippopotamus in Colombia. So the story is, you might have heard of Pablo Escobar. He was a drug baron in Colombia. He brought, he started his own zoo and he brought hippopotamus in. But when he died, then they went wild. They were released, and there's the government in Colombia are trying to control them now. Anyway, so I'm in rhyming tone here. Hippos in Colombia. 4 hippos captured in Africa, brought to the zoo in Colombia for Pablo Escobar in Bogota, along with cheetah and some zebra. When Pablo finally passed away, the hippos went on a holiday. Now there's only over 50 far away. In the wild they hope to stay. Trouble is, hippos get very cross. If people go near them, it's their loss. Hippos will show you who's the boss.
in their big teeth or dental floss. I am a vet near Columbia shore. Now the government are at my door. They want hippos controlled forevermore. Shooting hippos is out, I'm sure. I start my new job next week. They want me to get my snips, you see, and stop the hippo bulls from doing what comes naturally. So the love life of the hippopotamus is looking rather ominous. The bulls could get quite venomous if they're going to be anonymous. I'm looking for volunteers to hold the bull hippos down, and if we survive our jungle neutering, we'll drink all the tequila in town. We'll time for one more. This is completely different. A friend of mine has lost his sight. He's also lost the use of his legs. Last Christmas Day, his son-in-law got drowned. One of his sons died during the year. He was a special needs boy. It's a villanelle and it's called Mystery. A big man brought to ground, feet are sore, a gentleman for all of us to see, blindness seeing so much more. No more he'll see beloved land, aroma of farm life drifts his way, he feels the clay in roughened hand. Two families that fear the Christmas dread, a man lost swimming on holiday, no fancy presents before their bed. A wife who can no longer cope with loss, a gentleman for all of us to see, their special boy beneath a cross. A man who called two houses home, holds the mystery of the nativity. In wilderness we are never alone. Neighbours may call to the door of two families that fear the Christmas dread. Friendship and kindness never a chore, blindness seeing so much more.
Tom Maloney. Hi, Tom.
This is a Christmas poem, obviously. It's called The Christmas Morning Bit. And whereas Joe in his hippopotamus poem was lowering the tone, I hope this will raise the tone a little bit. It's a love poem, Maria. The Christmas Morning Bit. Of all the energies to woo you then, what you've called lust, I loved the having you for myself one. It dominated the mise-en-scene as pupils dilated to carry on, checking time with a glance on the sky in the skylight. No matter, a diversion, a prelude, dare say a foreplay. But you were the imminent one. I, like the Elizabethan metaphysical dawn, saw heaven in you, that time again when nothing else is. Sure enough, down to earth on the flat of my back, senses cocked for the lack. In this impatient roll, my body wished the world away, where a church bell pealed, where insignificant others could go to their birth story of the sun. I cast aside a fleeting thought, bare as a cloud coming from afar, even nowhere, tenuous, soon gone. How God's chosen people, after all these years, were still in denial, playing hardball, or just holding back. Reassured, turning over, when you gave me the leeway, I took the proverbial. About that time too, the good news was delivered. You, smiling, intimating, all peeling stopped, all else irrelevant, all right, yes. And with my back to the skylight, like the heavens, I too cried out with joy.
Thanks. Anthony. Very good.
How's it going? This one is called Report from West Cork. Keith Richards and the Dalai Lama operating a burger joint. This Bahon outside Baltimore, their premises. Its foundations reek of watercress and intuitive hope. Are we one with everything? Keith paints in sepia on the roof, daubs the triple spiral Celtic symbol on the door. Lo! A professor approaches, from the University of Ontological Studies no less, starts ranting that one of the spirals is out of sync with the other two. Listen here, mate, says equanimous Keith. These days I answer to lesser gods than you. The prof trundles off, in his huff, hunger unabated. A trio of go-go dancers replace him. They seek Cornish pastries adorned with toppings of sympathetic bliss and are told, sorry, all sold out. Languidly they climb the stile of an adjacent haggard and vigorously launch themselves into milking a herd of goats. The Archbishop of Canterbury rocks up, swinging incense and chewing a fennel stick, plonks himself on a big lump of red sandstone beside the Bahon, ponders vastness in the blue sky dome overhead and O'Gonallow's chances in the Camogie this year. Dalai Lama, clutching a substantial bag of steaming chips, greets him, urges him to shift his programmed Western brain. Accordingly, the arch bum shimmies sideways on his adopted rock. Dalai Lama perches in beside him. Keith arrives. 3 guests of a nation sit in silence on red sandstone, their senses fully opened, their communal bag of chips, just for now, unopened. And now, when the chips are down, utterly unflavoured, who would you share yours with?
Tommy.
I think I have 4 or 5 poems about Halloween, but none at all about Christmas.
Change the word.
So I got one. Well, I got 5 published in this journal in Maynooth last week. So I'm going to read one of those. What I might do is read it in English first, and then read the Irish that was published last week. I read an interesting poem by a poet who I think is here about how awkward it can be to write about exes when you're with someone new. But I think I'll get away with reading this one about my first love. I think she passed away 4 years to the day after she dumped me. But it's nice to remember her anyway. But we'd become friends again by the time she died. But anyway, I call this one A Timely Find. A pair of old love letters fell from the front pocket of my bag this afternoon as I packed to move away. Still folded as I'd left them over 5.5 years ago. Totally forgotten in the dust and debris of everything since, but still crisp and clear and so full of feeling that I had to catch my breath and stop myself from cursing out loud in the name of every emotion I can imagine. Her voice still full of life as I read her words, our unfulfilled promises flooding back, all together, and then blurring before my eyes. Agus inis an legan Gaeilge, an tanam an legan seo nach cuihuil. It's pair of litter gra o folca tusig mavala, tranona in you is made packall, biog raig na boga amach. Filter gefol mar a dogus iuds, hart ar cuig bliana go leho hin. Darmata fi chroch janig agus smunagar an tíl. Ag fós saléir, uair vín, agus colón go béal le mahu, go raibh ar an ma'ama le Harrington is ascanna a chachta hin a scórnach. In anam gach ila bhahu cán da bhfuil a go róbheo go fóil in a scríban. Díla gach gealtanas an cholína ag balú go dullar, ag fluc in a súl.
Thanks, Tom. Beth, are you ready? Hey, Beth.
Thank you. Thanks. I wrote this for my sister. Paintings in memory of Angela Wolfe. A carefully toned imagination with creative impulse finds grace within shadows, images of nature immortalized on canvas. Brushstroke by brushstroke seduces the onlooker to enter an untamed world for a past that is ever present, an invitation to encroach a mysterious, magnetic moment. Children give us their vision with bold strokes and wild colour. Some endure to sublime heights of eternal sunbeams. Cave art painters tell their story, cast us back Ian's. I am here. This is my world.
So he's been coming since we started, but tonight is the first night I managed to coax him to read. So can we give a warm welcome to Michael O'Mahony?
So the poem is about a bush that my sister-in-law fell into in Lanzarote. It's about Lanzarote, so it's not about Christmas because it's taken me 3 months to get up here. It's a short distance and a very, very long distance, let me tell you. Scared shitless. Anyway, it's ode to the bush. I'm only a little bush, just doing what I do. My life was very simple until Sue came home at 2. I was half asleep that night. I was feeling very tall. I didn't contemplate that night as Susan couldn't find the wall. She jumped right on top of me. My life will never be the same. I didn't think a little bush like me could ever feel such pain. I now suffer from anxiety. My petals, they won't bloom. If I could only get back the half of me she dragged into her room. She cried for help to Terence. He seemed to be in a mist. But Terence couldn't stop laughing as Sue cried out, I'm pissed.
Thank you.
Walk away.
Work the way, definitely. Stephen, would you like to read me?
How do I work this? Hold on. Might have it. That's it. Okay. How are you guys doing? It's been a while. I'm glad to be back here again. So I have loads here because I haven't read it here yet. But I have a tradition that I've started to do, which is I have a story that's gone terribly wrong for me. A few of you probably have heard it already. I think Jared already knows what I'm talking about. And maybe definitely think Ed knows what I'm talking about. But it's called fertilizer. And it goes very wrong for me. You'll enjoy it. I won't. Fertilizer. It was a Tuesday evening, time for work. Into the door, grabbed the keys to bring my bike upstairs and clock in. My colleagues greet me and I set off to work on the tills. Everything was going smooth for the evening, till of course I was informed that something needed cleaning up outside. Stephen, will you do me a favour and clean the shit up outside? As in the forecourt, like. Is the coal bunkers and logs a bit messy? No, Stephen, as in there is shit outside by the skip. As in human shit? No, as in horse shit, Stephen. Oh, okay, no problem. So I go down, I clean it up and I throw it into a bag. I decide I'd ring my grandmother, as she does loads of gardening and would use it for fertilizer. She says yes, and I continue the rest of my shift as normal. Anyway, the time came when I had to leave home. Looking forward to having a nice shower and going into Cherry Malone's for some good music and a few quiet pints. I grabbed my bike from upstairs and I set off for home with the bag of horse manure tied to the handlebars. I was just on the home straight, about a minute away from getting to my house, but unfortunately, as I was going down the hill, I hit a bump awkwardly, and the bag got caught in the front wheel. The wheel began to erode the bag, and of course the shit hit the fan. I tried my best to stop my bike, but the front brake was jammed. The horse manure began to revolve the wheel, ended up spraying all over my face. At this point you would think it couldn't get any worse, but it did. I was still holding my front brake, and as the bag came loose, the brake kicked in. As luck would have it, a big chunk of horse manure became airborne. I tried my best to avoid this ballistic poop as best I could, but my efforts were futile. Mouth wide open from the sudden shock, and in it went. I somehow managed not to crash the bike despite the mouthful of crap. Instead, I gagged and choked as I coughed up bits of manure on the way in home. My grandmother greeted me in tears of laughter, to which I found in no way funny. "Here's your shit," I coughed, and ran straight up for a good rinse, inside and out. Showering and gargling mouthwash at the same time, trying my best to get rid of the stench of manure. It was in my eyes, my beard, even some got in my nostrils. The stench making me want to get sick. But I managed to get rid of it nonetheless, and the smell was no more inside or out. I arrive at Charlie's and begin to regale my horrifying tale. The responses, of course, were kind and supportive. That is, if laughing and joking is a form of support. I turned to Mr. O'Dwyer, and he says to me, "So Stephen, tell me, how long ago was it since you had horse shit in your mouth?" I'm not going to lie, man, about 45 minutes ago. I told you you'd enjoy it. I still have trauma when I go past any sort of field or any sort of smell. It's just flash memories, you know?
It smelled for like 30 minutes.
Oh, God. It was rough. Anyway, I'll read one more. Do I have time to read one more, do I?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I'm going to go stick with the funny side of things. Don't think I've read this one here, but it's funny. I had the concept of it's about killer potatoes. It's quite funny. Potatoes, the killers of Ireland. On a day in the farm, you thought you were safe from harm when something falls from the high storage above. Yes, it's never so deadly, Irish spud. You think everything's so safe, and all of a sudden you get a slap of mash in the face. You thought wrong. Nothing is safe from these killer Irish potatoes. It gets even worse when you're about to open your potatoes and they burst, ready to give you indigestion and unmerciful thirst. These savoury fuckers won't be long taking you down. The killer potatoes are in town. When it's a night on the town and the smell of grease is around, you better be careful at this party. These dirty bag of chips will clog out your arteries. There's no escape from these Irish deadly tates. And when you think everything's all said and done, and you head off to bed to rest your sleepy head, you wake half-dazed only to notice the floor is glazed with a deadly rampage of gravy-dripping baked potatoes, all homemade. But it has to be said, no matter what, you better be careful of those deadly Irish tater tots. I hope you rest well in bed tonight, for there is a hell that may escape our killers of Ireland, the potatoes. Quick, go warn your mates. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Suzanne. Hi. This is a poem I wrote actually for the Prose Pints and Poetry Night. The theme was Don't Tell My Mom. I didn't get to read it, so I'm going to read it now. Thank you. Sorry. Don't tell my mom. I think she is a rock-solid Wonder Woman, and I hope I am nothing like her. Don't tell her she is 5 feet of iron and steel, yet somehow the softest person I know. Don't tell my mother I sigh the same way she does, when I notice another way in which I am like her, or that I wonder how much more like her I have to become. Don't tell her it fills me with hope and dread to think of history repeating itself. Don't tell her how sorry I am just for being, or how pathetically grateful I am that she has the patience for me. Don't tell her how much of my body I would purge if I could make myself over like a doll. Don't tell her what I'd keep or throw away. You can tell my dad all of this, by the way. Just don't tell her. She'll think about it forever. Don't tell my mom I learned to live without her happiness a long time ago. Don't tell her how extravagant and jarring it feels now. Don't tell her about the mistakes, or how many of them took root. She's sorry for all of it. She's sorry for things that weren't even mistakes. So don't tell her. Don't tell her. She'll think about it forever. Thanks so much, Suzanne. Last but not least, another local Edward O'Dwyer. And while Edward is getting his stuff, just a quick plug for our next event, January 3rd. We're going to have Ciaran O'Driscoll read for us for a bit, which we're very lucky to have him here.
Wow. Ishtana and all.
Ishtana, laurels, everything, the whole regalia.
Ishtana, exactly. Yeah.
So, January 3rd, put it in your calendars, first Wednesday in January. And we are equally lucky to have Edward with us tonight.
So I was given permission to do a short story. It's from my recent collection, The Man Who Became Poems. It is poem related, because it is called The Future of Poetry, but it sounds like it's going to be something particular, and it's actually going to be exactly the opposite. But I do hope you enjoy it. A poet is banging on the muse's door, a big house in the suburbs. He is typically underfed, his clothing shapeless and loose-fitting, as though held together by willpower alone. He has been able to slip easily through the bars between the gates. The muse has been meaning to get that looked at, since she has many dealings with the starved and impoverished. It might mean doubling the number of bars. The poet's little squeezed tight fists are pounding against the wood over and over and over, and he is shouting into the little eyepiece. They aren't as refined as you'd think. They are not culture and decorum incarnate, no. They don't talk casually in haiku whilst sipping espresso the way you'd hope they might, or think they ought to. No, they are always disappointing. He is drunk, of course, and not just sort of, but out of his mind drunk. It is 2 a.m., not that the time ever matters that much when it comes to the sobriety of poets. All the flowers in the muse's garden have turned their heads away from the stench of him. His poets reek, a combination of too much gin on his breath, the mildew in his jumper, and particles of shit flecking the insides of his underpants. Steve knows. I know you're fucking well in there, he is screaming up at the upstairs windows, then up at the balcony where the muse takes her breakfast. Show yourself, slut. Come out and explain to me, won't you, why you're such a nasty, ignorant bitch. He isn't going away, it doesn't look like. After no joy hammering away at the unbothered front door, he is picking up stones now from the driveway, and he is pelting the windows. He tosses stones at them like they are words at pages, like they might make up a poem in the end. The muse has 3 other poets in her bedroom right now, and no intention of answering the door, or of even coming to the window to tell him to get lost, or to threaten to call the police. She knows who it is. She knows who is making all the noise. She would bet the alphabet on it. He has been here several times before without an invitation. She doesn't know how he got the address, but then sometimes she's glad he did. These disruptions can amuse her sometimes, and sometimes, like now, they can add an extra spice to the now, the wonderfully irrepressible now. Have you ever heard of him? The muse asks her guests. No, one of the poets responds, and the others follow. No. 2 of them are standing in front of the muse with erections in their hands. The other, in the middle, only has no erection because she is a woman. And so, instead of holding an erection, she is fondling her breasts. They are all wearing the sort of expression they might wear if they were writing a poem. Serious, fate of the universe hangs in the balance expressions. Exactly, the muse laughs. He's nobody, an utter has-been. She is cackling just like a villain from a cartoon on a Saturday morning. Suddenly, she picks up a bedside lamp and throttles one of the poets with it. It breaks across the side of his head. The things people do for poetry. Not like all of you, the muse continues. You're going to be stars, major poets. You'll have to suffer poetically, of course. But stardom absolutely awaits, mark my words. The 3 poets grin back at her. This is why they are here. They answer the summons. This is all they've ever wanted, to be known far and wide for their poems, especially the miserable ones. There is blood pouring onto the carpet as they let the muse's words sink in, and there are old bloodstains everywhere on the carpet of the muse's bedroom, the blood of major poets who have gone before them, they presume. I haven't written a fucking poem in years, the poet shouts up from outside on the driveway. He is screaming it as loudly as his failing poet's lungs and withered poet's throat can manage. Over and over again he screams it until his body eventually folds beneath him and he sits there in the gravel like a bereft concertina. He did write beautiful poems, the poet. He really did. Inspiration came to him, and when it did, he took up a pen and he turned it into perfect words, into intricate embroideries of words. He turned it into books, and he turned it into a readership. He received fan mail sometimes. The critics wrote reviews of adulation. They said he just might save poetry, but that was then, and a lot has changed, and poetry still hasn't been saved. One time, a woman threw her panties at him in the street. It was just the once, and they were semi-soiled, and would have been loose on a small hippopotamus, but still, how many people can say they have experienced such a moment? She had removed her shoes and jeans first, just to get her knickers off, and then, with her enormous, goose-pimpled arse turned against the accusing gusts of the day, she'd flung them, and they had hit their mark. He was wearing them like a hat. It wasn't just anyone who could say they'd experienced that. He sometimes wonders of his readership still, whether he is thought of anymore, whether he is remembered, even just a little. My readership, he thinks. Have the pages of my books all disintegrated on their shelves? Have my words all turned to rot? Do they care? Did they ever really care? Did they exist at all? The words, the readers, or did I imagine them? And these thoughts cross his mind again now as he sits slumped and jaded. The questions hardly ever leave him be. You used to give me such magnificent poems, he whimpers. The damp is seeping through the threadbare arse of his pants. They are a faded poet's pants. Pants just like the poet, completely out of ideas. The muse has the three naked poets all lined up and bent over. They are three scrawny poets in a row. They should be a lewd postcard. She is whipping them in the name of poetry. They have been instructed to be silent poets during this, and there are furious, raw-looking welts appearing across each of their arses, and all the while the two erections persist. Who is the future of poetry? She shouts at them. I am, the three poets call back in unison. I can't hear you, the muse yells. I am, the three poets roar back. One more time, she rages, I am. The rewards will be great, the poet tells them, the muse tells them over the crack of her whip on their flesh. Stardom, I tell you, stardom. They are all far too busy thinking about the future of poetry. Oh, sorry. She has forgotten all about the commotion outside, and so have they. They are all far too busy thinking about the future of poetry. You promised great things, the old poet whinges. He hasn't budged from his sitting position in the driveway, in the gravel. You promised stardom. Even the moon turns away from him in disgust. Nobody is listening to him, and he knows, down to the depths of his splintered poet's heart, that he will never be listened to again, not ever, which is the death sentence for a poet, a death more than the actual. The poet allows his body to flop over, to die a poet's death. In the final seconds, he thinks of his body turning to winged poems that might fly off into different directions, touching the world one last time, but knows that death will just be death, that it will not be poetry. Thank you very much.
And on that optimistic note, poetry will be revived in January, though. So, to conclude, I'd like to start by thanking Jared so much for reading for us. And if you didn't pick up one of Jared's bookmarks, thank you. Marion still has some for sale, €2. We also have some Revival magazines to go with them for free if you buy one of Jared's bookmarks. And I'd like to finally thank everyone who listened, everyone who read tonight. I'd like to thank Lauren McNamara, Marion for always being here and supporting us, the Whitehouse, Pat, who always produces wonderful photography. And that's it, folks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.